Alright, day 2, and we are back on the subframe. It's not much warmer today, unfortunately, but we are able to tuck ourselves a little bit into the world's tiniest garage so we can stay out of the wind. Two benefits of staying out of the wind. One, it's not quite as cold. Two, it helps with the welding gas, because really welding in high winds is a bit of a pain, so this spot is ideal. The first thing we're going to start working on is the engine mounts. They're held in with a small weld, and I don't want to be flipping the thing upside down and risk knocking them and knock them out of place. I spent some time getting them level before we put the engine in. They were then sort of a little weld just to hold them in place. You can see if we put a straight edge across these two, hopefully with my arm out of the way. That's not very good filming, but they're really nice and flat and level, and we want to keep them like that. I'm not going to film what I think is going to be a good 3, maybe 4 hours of me grinding away on the subframe. My weapon of choice is the angle grinder with one of these knotted wire wheels. You can see, if we zoom in a little bit, it's doing a great job. Like pretty much everything on the build, the amount of time I thought it would take to put the engine mounts in and clean up the subframe, I was way off. So it's 3:30ish now. In the afternoon I started about 10:30, and you can see we've got him welded in. Really pleased with this though, it's gone well. And we got this side welding in as well. And I've been round, cut off a lot of the bits that we don't need. Still got to get rid of this guy. And welded up bits on the underside. I've got extra welds on here where the camber adjustment bolts go, so we're back up to the top. So we've got a few more bits to weld up, like the backs of here. Then we can start on these anti-roll bar brackets as well. But it's going well. The sun's come out and it's lovely and warm, which does make me happy. I've got busy making cardboard templates. We're looking at the bottom of the subframe right now, and I made cardboard templates to go either side of the steering rack mounts, and that's just to prevent any chance of any side-to-side movement, especially if we go into a wall sideways, which I'm really hoping we don't. We don't want to bend all of these bits out of shape. I'd rather bend a track control arm and replace that than have to work on the chassis. And with my cardboard templates all marked up and cut out, all I've done is transfer that template onto steel, cut it out, put him on the wobbly hole saw, cut a hole for lightness. I think stripping weight out the front of the car is a long dead dream, but you know, it looks nice if nothing else. And then I've welded him in, and that looks pretty good. It's day 4 working on the subframe. Quite a lot of times going into this, and as you can see, it's a beautiful calm day. Sun's out and the birds are singing, and this glorious peace and quiet is about to be shattered by the sound of an angle grinder. Here's a nice example of why cutting cardboard templates is such a good idea when you're working on this type of thing. You can see this one here. This is my first template. Sneak him out. And he was just cut so that he actually fitted just inside the bracket and the subframe. But after fitting him, I decided actually I wanted a little shelf so that I could weld to this part here. So then I've just transferred my original template to a new piece of cardboard, added a little shelf and cut it out, and now I can tuck this in again and check fitment. And you can see that I need to take a tiny bit off here, but generally that's a great fit. And I can now transfer this to the same thickness of steel, cut this out, weld him in, do another one, flip it around, the camera's stuck, put one in here, then I can start working on the back piece. And that's what it looks like, made out of steel. Probably better than cardboard. And with the addition of a second brace, this guy here, he's hot. I'm calling those engine mounts done. It's getting really hot out here and all this gear, but you don't want rust in your eye and you don't want to be breathing it in either, so the glasses and the mask, and to be honest, the earmuffs, as shockingly broken as they are, after a while the sound of the angle grinder does leave your ears ringing, so all of the equipment is necessary. So all the rust, well, 90% of the rust is cleaned off. We've done the best job that we can with the grinder and the drill and these little things. It's about to get pressure washed, so that's fine. But I finished it all up. It's taken about 3 hours to clean it all down properly, and I just couldn't leave these little bits empty. There's a little hole you could see through to the supports we've put in. It's over there, and it just looked ugly, so I quickly knocked up some little pieces of metal and just welded them in. But also, look at the welding, it's not bad. Practice makes perfect. Well, okay, look, that's not perfect, but it is better, so yeah, we're going the right way. And that is the end result of days and days of welding and cutting and grinding and more welding and more cutting and more grinding. I'm pretty happy with that. Now all we need to do is see if we can make it look a little less ugly. I'm going to be painting the chassis in POR15, which is apparently, if you believe the description, a super tough, long-lasting coating that you can paint directly onto rust. Now obviously we've spent the time cleaning a lot of the rust off, but you have to go through a certain set of preparations before you can paint it on. So you have to clean it, then spray it down with degreaser, then clean it again, then spray a etching fluid on, then clean it again, and then you can paint on it. So I have sprayed it down with the pressure washer, and at the moment I'm just waiting for him to dry and enjoying an ice cream. Today's ice cream is a feast. What a bloody excellent ice cream. The subframe has been degreased, sprayed down and cleaned again, and left to dry in the sun. So it's a new day, it's the morning, in fact it's Easter Sunday, so happy Easter to you. Again, it's a lovely sunny day. This is perfect weather for painting on the POR15 because it reacts with moisture. So you want a nice, dry, warm day, ideally for applying the paint. So as I say, the subframe's all been prepped. The last thing to do is actually apply the metal prep. Now, this is the stuff I was talking about a moment ago, and as you can see, there's a number of warnings on the back, and as I understand, they're not kidding with these warnings, so we'll be doing this with a respirator. The way it works is you have to spray the piece and keep it wet for between 20 minutes and half an hour. So you spray it on, and as it starts to dry out, you have to keep topping it up. It has to stay wet for about half an hour. So that is the job.
I was spraying, I could smell the chemicals, which is not ideal. So we've moved to a better mask.
Right, the subframe's had actually nearly 40 minutes soaking in the solution. I've been round and round and round, topping it up as we get dry patches. And you can see, if I bring the camera up, actually leaves sort of a white coating on parts of the metal. The instructions say to now rinse him off thoroughly and leave it to dry. So that's what we're going to do. He's slowly drying off in the sun, and look what it does to the metal. It's crazy. Alright, it's POR15 time. So the instructions are not to shake the can, take the lid off, stir him with a stick, then pour out what you need into a cup and seal this up as quickly as possible. And you have to wipe around the edge, because once this stuff sets, you then can't get the lid back off, which will be a bit of a pain. Then we've got a selection of brushes, like that, just cheap brushes, and you just go to town. Well, I have to say, this stuff goes on really nicely. It's incredibly thin. It's not like hammerite or anything like that, although it looks like it. It's really thin. You can see I poured myself a cup of this, if you can see that with the light, and I managed to cover about half the subframe, at least on the top, with a quarter of a cup, maybe less. So I actually think this little cup is going to finish the top and do underneath. I've had to take a break. Now there's no warnings on the tin at all, but see, there's no warnings like the spray. But the paint, the fumes from the paint are really aggravating my breathing, so I've had to take a break. I'm going to put the respirator back on despite the heat, and then we can carry on. And it is looking excellent. I'm really chuffed with this. It's come out really nice despite not being sandblasted or anything like that. Obviously we've just cleaned it up on the driveway. The top, oh, so much glare. Top's done. We've got to wait for him to dry, and then we can flip it upside down and get to the underneath. Okay, so I've just stepped inside really quickly to show you this, and hopefully the camera will pick it up. My arm is getting really, really itchy, and I'm getting little raised bumps all over my arm. You can see like there. And man, they itch. I don't think it's insect bites. I think it's something to do with either the paint, a little bit of a smudge there, or the spray. When I was spraying that, I had gloves on, but nothing covering my arms, so I suspect it was that metal etching spray. So if you are going to go down that route, I would suggest long sleeves, or you can get those gloves that sort of come up to your elbow. Seems a bit extreme, but man, my arm is itchy, so you have to take a break and see if we can wash them down a bit. The instructions say it takes between 2 and 6 hours for the POR15 to dry. This guy took the full 6 hours. It was still tacky in the evening, so actually I've left him to dry overnight, and it's fully dried. There's no tackiness that you sometimes get with hammerite. It feels really good. And it looks fantastic. So now we need to flip him upside down and paint the bottom. Ta-da! It's all done. Still wet, so I dare say it's another, oh, it's getting windy, another 6 hours of waiting for this guy to dry now, but that is a job well done. Well, I think it is anyway. Should keep all the weather and the rust and the grot out for at least as long as I've got the car, certainly. And it looks nice and neat. Now, why do I care about it looking neat and tidy? Well, I will show you. It's because we have lovely new parts to bolt to our nicely refurbished subframe. So these are Japspeed top arms. Now the lower arms were meant to arrive yesterday and they didn't, which means they're going to come tomorrow. Sadly, tomorrow is a work day, so we're not going to get any chance to bolt bits onto the car for a good week. And we've also got these to fit. I'll be honest, very, very excited to get these on the car. Next episode is all about the engine. We do a cam belt and a water pump change on this guy, and then we're going to take the inlet off, and we're also going to do the rocker covers, get them all painted and cleaned up. So that is in episode 10. I'll see you then.